Okay, it's recording. I just made like a 20-minute video and my mouse is not working correctly. I have to hit the button like 3 times in order for it to start. Now it is recording. I clicked on the last video and it was like 4 seconds long. I was like, what? I just got done talking for like 20 minutes. Whatever. So today, the balance, right? How do you create balance? Energetically, everything always has to come into balance. But how do you do that? You'll always be supported as long as you're providing positive energy to your environment. There's a lot of sales tactics about manifestation. We're all manifesting what we want to manifest, right? You can manifest anything in the physical reality if you're in the right state of being. But you don't want to do it in an imbalanced way. If you do it in an imbalanced way, you're going to create imbalance, right? Actually, it's always happening correctly, energetically, in the balanced way. Faith is everything. Faith and love for yourself. But if you're not reinvesting into how to create that in the world around you, you'll end up falling out of balance, if that makes sense. I was thinking about this a lot because I just had a long conversation with my brother about how I asked him, I said, he drives truck. I asked him, why don't you get your truck smog proof so you could drive to California? He's got a 2010 Kenworth, and I think you got to buy something after like 2014 in order to have it to be smog proof for California. California is the most restrictive state for smog controls, and so there's a lot of trucks. Even if you buy a 2010 that doesn't have the necessary requirements to drive in the state of California. So just total pain, right? But if he gets he could take loads there. But he said something that I didn't know until today, and this makes sense energetically, and this is what's happening in the bigger picture energetically. And I want to let you guys know why balance is being forced in the system, whether we like it or not. And this is why the fires happen in California. California is primarily a consumer state. It doesn't create much. So there's a lot of loads that you can take to the state of California, but most drivers don't want to go down there because they can't get loads out. It's not creating anything. California is consuming everybody else's energy. Like Washington State and Oregon send way more power to the state of California than California doesn't produce anything. Like even they take all their water that comes out of Colorado, goes through, Nevada and Arizona. The Colorado, runs into Hoover Dam, and then Hoover Dam produces power in Nevada, just outside of Vegas, for half of the power in Southern California. They didn't even produce enough power for their own state. So California is such a high consuming state, they don't produce anything. And this is what happens when you see the communities that get super out of balance. Like, I'm, privileged enough to live in an area that's pretty balanced. It has a high consumer rate because of Hanford. There's like 40,000 people that work for the federal government that we don't really produce anything there. It's just a parasite on the back of humanity. But we produce so much agriculture and other things here that it is about as balanced as you're going to find anywhere. We produce a lot of agriculture. We produce a lot of engineering, tools. There's a lot of things that get produced here that a lot of people don't even know unless you start talking to the business community. Produce a lot of metals, produce a lot of things in this area that keeps this area pretty balanced. And, having a standard wage in Hanford area actually kind of pulls it into a really medium bracket where this area hasn't been negatively impacted by a lot of housing price fluctuations nationally. Anyway, so an area like California And if you have an area where you've got a lot of wealthy people that naturally jacks the price of housing to where somebody living for minimum wage can't even afford it, and you've got people living on the street that can't afford, there's areas in California where if you make $150,000 a year, you could probably barely afford like a one-room apartment. That's a place that's way out of balance compared to the rest of the areas. And so fires start, right? You got people that say, screw it, we're just going to burn this place down. And that's actually what happened in a lot of those California fires. And then the conditions were perfect so that you couldn't stop them. So I pulled a card on the last video that I did. Compassion. You really have to have compassion because there's a lack of understanding of what it takes to create balance. And you have to do it energetically, right? It has to happen with the individual first. And this is something that I had to learn because I always wanted to create balanced structures where people could work together. And you do have to do that because energetically, you and I will never be able to create balance with each other if I am selling you something or if I am valuing my time more than your time. Because we would end up living next to each other where what I have and you have would be out of balance, right? If it was just me and you, whoever's watching this video, if I valued my time more than yours, and I was, if we were productive for the same hours in the day, right? I mean, it would be impossible to do that between two people. But between three people, as soon as you get into three or more, then you've got a situation where you could create a balance. If it's just two of us, there's no way that you just tell me screw off. You're not selling me anything else. We're not using money anymore. We're just trading time, right? We'd be building things together. There's no doubt, right? So there would be no money. As soon as you create three people, then you've got, okay, now we've got three people here. How are we spending our time together? All right. You got to create a structure that creates balance energetically without creating a means of exchange, or else you can create imbalance and psychological states in the group collective that creates attachments to self-worth on the exterior. That's what happens. And then as soon as you create that, now you're creating an unbalanced state internally that creates an unbalanced state externally, right? That looks unbalanced. It's actually being balanced internally in the group collective. You're allowing parasitic non-entities to siphon your energy when you're not creating a balanced state internally, right? Like, I don't feel like I will be provided if I'm providing positive energy into my community and then getting it back, right? Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm trying to provide positive energy for you guys, help you guys understand that energetically, and that's why the breeders have created channels where they're providing positive energy or trying to give what the collective needs to hear, which is the same thing I'm doing. It's just being done in a different way, right? This is a hierophantic energy, unless it's both. It's the high priestess and hierophant, because energetically I have to pick up what's going on and then translate that in a way that you can understand on this channel, right? So I'm not giving you a direct message of what you are specifically going through energetically, although I could probably do a reading for you. All you need to do for yourself energetically is make sure that you're providing positive, loving energy to your environment, and that's what you'll get in return. Even if the people around you might not be, you might have to pull yourself out of there. But if you're giving a healing energy, you'll put those people in a karmic cycle, right? And then by cutting yourself off and say, hey, look, you have to be honest, right? You have to say, hey, look, I'm not getting from you what I've been providing for this relationship. Like if the money's going one way and one person's working more than the other, right? That doesn't help you, right? You're not providing positive energy for each other and being comfortable providing that for the community. That's why there's very few divine couples out there when you look at the bigger picture. So energetically, probably every area is different. You've got some areas that are producing more, but because of the society we live in and the structures we've created, you'll see places that are creating more than they're making monetarily, right? Because they're working for a bigger structure that's siphoning the energy off of what's being created, and then the energy that, or the group of individuals that's taking that energy is primarily consuming. They're just controlling those people, which is a consuming type of energy. They're not balanced internally, and they're consuming too much. And those people don't have the faith that they can support themselves energetically to stay balanced within their relationships around them. That's why money got created in the first place. That's the whole reason, is because somebody had a primarily consuming energy and then created a system where they could consume you energetically. That's the banking system in and of itself, right? And then there's people that work in the banking system that the larger group is actually consuming off of. They're just working for the people that created the system. Super toxic when you really think about it. Any kind of monetary exchange will create an imbalance in the system every time, right? Because if you pay me to do something and we're not co-creating together and we're not both in our co-creative energy, that means one of us is primarily consuming and one of us is primarily creative. That's the way that works. And that's why the means of exchange need to get created in the first place, because you're not in your low opinion of yourself, not understanding who you are, right? You're not creating. You believe in yourself. So you have to believe that you can support your society, and all of these things are coming to light in the energetic community. That's why there's healers, right? But a healer will never be able to, a pure healer, will never be able to sell you something and place their needs above yours and heal you totally, right? You have to be able, because the healing journey is self-discovery. That happens on an individual basis. You have to get into your creative energy and slowly bleed out those negative thoughts about yourself, or belief that you can, provide for yourself by naturally attracting what you need. What else do I have to say about that? We can create structures where you'll constantly fit into different roles, get in your creative energy, and manifest stuff in the physical reality. And that's really the only way to really create the right boundaries with the rest of the world, right? That's why I've been preaching that for so long, because I know that there's a way, and you just have to build it like a natural organism, a natural body, so that each individual can move into positions that the community needs you to, because you're always going to be asked. You're always going to be asked to do something, right? And because it all has to do with attachment. If too attached, if you have a group of people that have emotional attachments to self-worth, they're always going to try to move into more positions of power. You can't want to move. You have to stay away from positions of power and just surrender to the needs of the community around you. Every cell in your body is surrendering to the cells around it to provide a balanced form of energy, because you're grounding out fear and anxiety from those entities or narcissistic tendencies to place itself above the people around them. Right? It's the only way you can create balance within yourself. I know it's a lot to take in, right? I mean, it was a lot for me to take in energetically. Think about all this stuff, right? To create a structure, to create balance internally, and you really have to come to your own self-awareness and how to do that with the people around you energetically so that you're supported. And then create that. You can create a larger structure to do that, to create a path for people to become more self-aware. And then create the right boundaries to where it gives people a way to come in and then get kicked out if they can't find balance, right? But you should be able to heal those people and be patient with them, because realistically, I mean, once you find balance and you're really providing good positive energy, you just need to do the right things for yourself and get in your creative energy and then create that balance daily. That's why it's so difficult to do that in this three-dimensional, because there's so much heavy energy, right? Because people have so many attachments to what they can see, taste, and touch. And too many attachments to that will try to pull you out of balance and try to pull on people energetically around you to try and get what you want, instead of just providing and staying in non-attachment, and then just allowing the universe to provide what something naturally for you. Very difficult to master yourself to that level. And a lot of the readers that you see on YouTube are providing messages for the group collective, or just basically positive energy. It's like, yeah, you guys are this, you guys are that, you guys are awesome, and you guys are, right? Everybody's overcoming something internally to a certain extent to make sure that you're providing something for your, providing positive energy for your environment, and then naturally getting it in return. Yeah. And that's the way to build a healthy relationship with each other, right? I mean, it's been such a blessing to meet all the people I have, because they teach you so much. Our interpersonal relationships are very valuable. So, and I've seen where other people have had to sometimes take time apart from their partners, to learn about themselves and learn how to more about themselves before they can come back together. I just saw a post like that on LinkedIn. That happens all the time. And so when you're separated from somebody, don't ever think it's the end. You might be able to just take some time for yourself and just learn about yourself. I mean, that, me included. That happens all the time, and it's totally natural. It might take 3 months, could take a year, could take 3 years. Who knows? It's just hard to say where you're at energetically and know where your significant other's at. We just don't know. So my advice is never try to create some attachment to the past. At the same time, you should be able to talk about it without any repercussions, right? Because if you can't talk about the past without repercussions, it means that somebody else has got an attachment to the past, right? It doesn't matter. It was a learning lesson. All those things are just learning lessons, and you should be able to reflect on it as a learning lesson. Emotional attachments are really easy to get into, to feel like you need to have this feeling or else I'm not going to be okay, right? Yeah. Love you guys. And I pulled this card before. I think I showed you guys already. The compassion card. You really have to have compassion for yourself and the people around you, because there's so much of this is not understood. There's a lot of big-time entrepreneurs out there that have probably created attachments, and this is why that they're continuing to try and sell. And you see that I've noticed this, and I'm sure you guys have noticed this in the last month or so. A lot of the big entrepreneurs that are pretty famous, I'm not going to name any names, really getting out there, pushing the ads, because the money's been moving in one direction for so long. They probably have a certain type of lifestyle that they're trying to maintain, instead of being non-attached to it and providing something for the community, a structure where you've got an equal exchange of energy. If you don't, then you're going to start getting pulled into a state of lack, and you're not going to realize, wait, you're never going to have balance. If I'm living in a $100 million home compared to a giant mansion, and nobody else has access to it except for me, and there's other people in the world that are living in villages where they can't even afford to feed themselves, that system will force itself into balance in long-term cycles, and that's what we're seeing. It's the end of it. We're at the end of a 24,000-year cycle. Everything's going to come back into balance. So the fires in California were just one example of how you cannot create that kind of imbalance in living right next to each other. It'll burn. And on a global scale, it's going to start happening. I'm going to start seeing it. You cannot create balance. You have to create an equal exchange of energy with the people around you. And you'll never be able to do it with money, ever. You've got to create a structure to where you guys can create together and get your natural creative energy. Ground things out in the physical reality if you need those things. Or eventually, maybe you won't even need those things. You stop consuming it all. I don't know. But creating too much imbalance where you can't enjoy creation together equally because you're all equally in your creative energy and receiving together. Probably only need to work 3-4 hours a day, I would guess. 4 or 5 days a week at the most. Right? To create something like that. And then create those boundaries with the rest of the world. It's like, hey, you guys need to learn how to do this. And if you don't, then, right? Come on. Let's do this. Right? Because that's what we all really want anyway, right? Is to be able to spend time with each other without needing to spend time with each other. And that what really creates balance. Because if I have enough money to where I don't need, if I ignore the rest of the world, eventually I will fall out of balance with it. So what am I providing, right? It's interesting. There are some things that I won't talk about on this channel. You'll have to ask me personally. But, yeah. Everything that's been written will be released, right? Everything that's ever been written will be talked about or will come to pass. Revelation is just a book it could be older than 3,000-4,000 years old. It could have been written before the last cycle. It's probably the exact same story that happened 24,000 years ago. Right? You're just looking at if you look at the earth as an organism, it's like a tree bearing fruit. And you've got to have seeds that plant on fertile soil for people to understand that you have to have faith in yourself to be able to heal your environment and bring it into balance. Or else it's just what happens, right? Somebody has to bring that or help bring it into balance, or at least teach it. And there's a lot of teachers out there that are talking about the same thing. I'm not the only one, right? It's not just me. So, love you guys. Have a beautiful day. Love yourself. Have faith in yourself to be able to love one another and heal your relationships under no matter what happens. So, and have compassion, because it's just a growing organism, right? And people are just becoming more self-aware. We're just living in a universal field of intelligence here. It's pretty cool. Anyway, have a happy Saturday. I went to my boys' track meet today and yeah, had a good time. So, love you guys. Catch you next.